Hello everyone, I'm Connor and this is the Fowler Hour. This is the fourth episode of the Fowler Hour today. I thought we'd do a straight Q&A session, so feel free to send me your questions in now. We're going to spend the next hour answering any kind of design related questions you have, and basically anything to do with design, social media, whatever you want. Get your questions coming in now. Use hashtag Fowler Hour on Twitter, or if you're watching on Instagram, send me your questions now through as well. I've got a question. We're going to start today using Callum Finn's question. And Callum asks, but I'm going to go through the questions that I've got previously and earlier today first, and then we'll do new questions. So, if you've got a new question, put it in the chat. Hi everyone watching on YouTube and Instagram. So, Callum asks, what is your usual process of a logo design? What do I do? So, first off, I basically interview the client. So if it's a client piece, basically we'll compare the two in a second. So if it's a client piece, what I will do is send them a big old questionnaire and try and get lots and lots of detail from them about the project that they'd like to take on with me, that they'd like to work with me on, to see if we're a good fit for each other, to understand more about the design that they like, understand the styles they like, their process, their business, what would make a successful design and logo for them, and basically tailor what I can do for the client. So after that step, obviously you get contracts and quoting and all of that kind of thing. But the next step after that, this is when it gets for client work and my personal work that I do. Thank you, Wiseman. I will answer your question in a minute. 2468. I'm really good, thank you. Thank you for joining the stream. And MTC, I love you too. And Victor, thanks for the heart, bud. Yeah, so the process after doing the kind of preliminary questionnaires and things like that is I will take my sketchbook out, take out my reference books, look at my reference books, get some initial ideas down based on what the client has said and what the client has sent me, and then create some basic sketches from that. Then you go, the feedback from the client comes back, you create the digital concepts, and then you refine through that process. Standard design packages are things like sketching, 3 concepts and 2 revisions. That's pretty standard across the board. Obviously, it depends on who you go to, what the client's requirements are. Maybe they need 6 different concepts because you're working with 2 different types of company. Hi, Zorm. Yeah, ask me anything stream, put your questions below. And after we've done the revisions, basically it goes to packaging the artwork. Now, when packaging the artwork, I always make sure that I supply it in vector format. You supply it in EPS and PDF and AI Illustrator if the client requires it. Usually there's a bit of discussion about that. And we go from there. So that's kind of a quick breakdown, Callum, of what I do. If you want to know anything more in depth about the specific sections and topics that I work with, anything in particular, feel free. So, now, what was the next question? The next question was, how do I advertise myself? Like I'm doing right now, Wiseman. Like I'm doing right now. I'm live streaming. I'm talking to you guys. Yeah, sorry, being a bit cheesy. Yeah, so I advertise on, or I wouldn't say advertise because I don't pay for it. I just work hard at creating content and posting it for social media sites, so Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I do live streams on Instagram and YouTube. I edit these podcasts down, and put them on iTunes and YouTube as well. When I've got my website back up, which I will hopefully be starting next week, that will have a blog on it as well, of which will have all the podcasts, so you can go and check that out there. That's how I advertise myself. It's a lot of hard work to push this kind of content, but the payoff, even if you don't put money into it, is ridiculous. So that's what I do. Next question. What brand of dotted graph paper do you use? This is the second time someone's asked me this today. I'm not getting paid by these guys to advertise this, by the way. If I get a sponsorship deal, I'll do it every week. I'd love that. That would be excellent. So, it's this book. Ooh. It's called... show it to the camera up here as well. See if these guys can see it. It is Dot Grid. Okay? And you guys can see that there. It's the.grid.com. That's the... basically, .grid.com is a really good, relatively not cheap, but they're cheaper than Moleskines, but they're better quality than your basic kind of stationery shop graph paper. It's really good paper, and it's a nice sized book as well to carry around with me. So that's what I use. I use the .grid, the .grid.com. Excellent. Oh, hello. Goodness me, lots of questions. When did you start drawing? Drawing? I don't know. I've been creatively drawing things as long as I can remember. The last course I did was GCSE, so when I was 16, 15, 16. And now at 22, I don't really draw illustrations anymore. It's more like basically, my job title is I'm a professional shape maker. I draw shapes. I combine shapes. I merge shapes together. I don't really do any illustration type things anymore, because a lot of my work is digital and quite grid based. So there are certain guidelines and certain rules that I don't have to abide by, but make good design. So I tend not to do illustration stuff. But when I started drawing when I was about, I don't know, the second I could pick up a pencil or a crayon. So, yeah, long time. Yes, Zorm, I'm a full-time freelancer. Yes, that's what I do. Do you feel that sometimes you are not doing a good job? I think it depends. Sometimes I'll look at a bit of work that I've done and go, ooh, actually, I don't really like that. Why did I post that online? I should tweak it and make it a bit better, really, and improve it. But what I tend to do is take what I've posted. So, for instance, the library post that I did earlier this week, I really like the concept. I understand there are certain types of imagery that do really well on Instagram, and that kind of abstract with a book is not one of those. But I wasn't happy with the layout, so what did I do? I took it back, and the next post I improved it. So I 100% feel like I'm not doing a good job some of the time, but that's just the joy of being creative more than anything. You're always going to have that kind of self-doubt to an extent, but it's more of a sliding scale. So it's the self-doubt very much is dipping as I get more work and bigger projects, and you get a bit of an ego boost when a client says to you, oh, I really love this, what you did, oh, thank you so much, it was great. And you get a bit of an ego boost from that, and that's really nice. So, how much did I earn from the last project? That, my friend, is a secret. My comment is on anything to do with money. I won't give specifics out, but basically what I earn from the client work keeps me in full-time freelance. So basically, that's what I do. This is what I do full-time. So just turning my mic down a little bit. There we go. Trying not to freak out my Audacity player that's recording. Yeah, not going to give you exact specifics. Farouk, I think that's how I'm going to pronounce your name. But I'll dance around the money questions if you want. More than happy to do that. Did I ever go to uni? Is it noir? No, I didn't. I didn't go to university. And feel free to ask me why in another question while I get through the rest of them. Hi, Kai. So do you get clients from Instagram and Behance? Yes, I do. Instagram is a great way for me to get clients, and it's because the social media reach means that I can interact with people from all over the world, not just pre-internet, which would have been the people in my city or the next town, and that kind of thing. Hey, we have 9 people watching on YouTube. Record. Hello. Be sure to subscribe, everyone. You'll be able to watch all of the streams and the VODs on YouTube afterwards, and when that's all uploaded. And also, we're now on iTunes. Okay? So, if you go to iTunes on your iPhone, or not an Android one yet, because I haven't got that far, but if you go to iTunes and put in the Fowler Hour, you can find us on iTunes. Hallelujah. Rate and subscribe. Cool. Right, did I... what was the next question? Did I go to university? No. Yes, I get clients from Instagram and Behance. Yes. I do get clients from there. Yes, sorry. I've literally just eaten loads of food. I'm about to food coma slightly. Yes, so I get clients from Instagram. Basically, I leave my emails open to that kind of thing. The process is gonna be changing over the next couple of months once I finish the projects I'm working on, with my new website and things like that coming. But at the moment, yes, I do get work from Instagram and Behance, and still get people coming through my website and Twitter and things like that as well. Also, as a designer, referrals are an excellent way to get work. I'm going to leave that statement out there, and if you disagree, feel free, but getting referrals from previous clients to new clients, I feel, is one of the best ways to get it, because you end up building this network of people who have worked with you. The channel name on YouTube is just Connor Fowler, it's just my name, or you can type in the Fowler Hour into YouTube, or find it on Twitter, and go from there. Yeah, a referral is basically you get your one client refers you to their mate or their business partner or their mum, or and then they come to you for work because they've said that you're good. I'm going to take a question from YouTube. Do you think it's possible to make a living solely from logo branding projects, or do you find yourself doing jobs you wouldn't necessarily do? Club flyers, for example. Now, it depends on the project. If someone came... Oh, that's from Thomas M. on YouTube. Thank you, Thomas. So he's asking whether I find myself doing jobs you don't necessarily want to do. Ultimately, I'm the one picking and choosing the jobs because I'm freelance, so if I didn't want to do the job, I wouldn't accept it. Now, I'm not saying I'm opposed to doing things like posters and album artworks and all of these other kind of like print-based things at all. My focus and specialization largely is logo design and brand identity packages. But occasionally stuff does come in, and if I want to go and do a poster, then why not? Like, it's a good way to mix up work. It's a good way to keep your work fresh, to try new things, to try out different things. I don't do things I don't want to do. This is why I screen and interview my potential clients before accepting the jobs, because if it's not going to be a good fit and I don't feel I can work with them the best of my ability, then it's not a good use of time for myself or the client. I hope that answers your question, Thomas. If you have a follow-up, feel free to send that. Oh, thank you, David. Thanks for checking out Blue Deer Design and Creative Waffle. If you're watching on YouTube, please send your questions on Twitter if you can, using hashtag #FowlerHour. It's the easiest way for me to read them. So please do that. Matt on Twitter asks, if you don't come up with the good, right concept / have no ideas, what do you do? So basically he's asking, if I created a concept that the client didn't like, or I can't come up with any ideas, I think you need to take a step back from that and go, did I actually ask enough questions of the client? Now, I always ask the client to send me images of things that they like and things that they're design-wise they're attracted to, and whether that's a circle or a mountain or a jaguar. Like, you have to take in as much information from them so you end up with a fairly, not strict, but you end up with a box or a little stack full of reference images and information from them of things that they like, content that they like their logo to reflect their business in, and also it means that they can you basically end up with a set of guidelines. And if you just go in blindly and they say, hey, I want a logo for my initials CF. Okay, do you want that as hand lettering? Do you want that as minimal geometric, like pixel style? Like, you can come up with so many ideas on that spectrum that you spend a lot more time sketching and going back and forth with them with concepts, when in fact if you'd gone back the first step and asked them more or better questions, you might get that information you need that goes, you get that click, you get that spark. And sometimes it might take you a couple of days. I mean, I will often do 2 rounds of sketching before I even present anything, because I'll do my first ideas and then I'll leave it a day and come back to it. I hope that answers your question, Matt. If you're watching and you have another one, please send that through now. Excellent. Excellent. Hope that answers your question. Cool. No worries, Thomas. Thank you for your question. Okay, I'm trying to catch up with Instagram now, guys. Why didn't I go to university? I'm that far behind. I will catch up. Why didn't I go to university? How did my parents react? Now, up until my younger sister, no one in my family had been to university. For one reason or another, it just didn't fit with what they wanted to do. Which is not a problem. I don't know where you're from, but in the UK, you don't have to go to university. It's not free either. So the concept of spending 50 grand on 4 years of education is a lot of money. So what I decided to do is I'd already started teaching myself the skills to become a graphic designer and to become a logo designer and a brand designer. And I decided, you know what, while I work other jobs and save money, I'm going to teach and teach and teach myself every single skill that I will need to be able to do this full time. Now, I don't know how much of my content you've watched, but I didn't start doing Instagram and posting my work for about a year and a half, until about a year and a half ago. But I've been designing since I was 17, so I've been doing this, 16? So I've been doing this for 6 years and practicing for 6 years, and only now am I kind of showing my face and showing my content. I hope that answers your question about that. Also, because uni is really expensive. Like, oof. Zorm asks, what's the coolest project you've done so far? It's one I've just wrapped up, but I'm under NDA, so I can't talk about it. And I can't talk about it till next year, so sorry about that, Zorm. Yeah, I think also the second coolest project was I did a logo and t-shirts and a poster and website design for a festival in Australia called Square Sounds. You can just type in Square Sounds Melbourne if you want to look it up later. And I did all the logo branding for that. And basically every single year the festival gets a new artist, and I created a new logo for them, and they've now used that for their 2017 event. So I basically did a rebrand for them, and now they're taking my new logo and rebranding that again. So it's iterating on the logo, which is a really cool process. But I'm just really proud of the fact that I made a new design for their logo, and then the next guy has basically done a version of my version, which is completely different to the previous. So I basically set the new bar, and then someone has worked from that, which I think is really cool. Guys on YouTube, feel free to use hashtag Twitter. No, don't do that. Use hashtag Fowler Hour on Twitter. It's the easiest way for me to read your questions because it just comes through a little bit easier. If you have a question, feel free to send it to me. I'm getting through them now on Instagram. So, 2468. Have you considered advertising on Instagram? If so, why or why not? So, advertising on Instagram, obviously, it requires money. It requires capital to put in to start with. And right now, because of the way my account is growing and the rate at which it's growing, I don't feel that... I don't feel that the balance would be worth it, and I'd much rather take the time to build it a little bit more slowly now in comparison to paying for advertising, and get you guys to build like a bit more of a community. Because even if my posts get a bit of a lower engagement than the previous one, I know that there's always going to be a bunch of you commenting and leaving your feedback. And for me personally, I'd rather have that kind of engagement than I would have thousands upon thousands of likes. Because reach and impressions are great, but I'd rather have people coming here and coming to my account and staying, and building my profile that way, so that when someone comes, they can be like, oh my goodness, all these people are interacting with Connor and looking at his designs and leaving feedback and all of those kind of things. And I know that there's even some of you guys out there who have notifications turned on for my account. I haven't even mentioned that. Like, and that's so cool that you guys think that my posts are good enough. It's very humbling, actually, to know that you guys think my posts are good enough to subscribe to, effectively, to get a notification for when I post a new thing, rather than just seeing it in your feed. And I feel super grateful for that, and that's the kind of thing that I want to build. And yeah, I've never asked anyone to, but I am going to now. If you're watching right now, you can go to my profile, and you can press the 3 dots, and you can subscribe for notifications for my posts. I'd really appreciate that. Yeah, you don't have to. It's not. You don't need to. But it's really cool that you guys, or some of you guys, have. I feel very grateful for that. So, next question, if there is another one. What do you write in your cover letter? Can you define cover letter for me? Do you mean on my resume, or are you talking about jobs, Dinesh, or what are you talking about? How much do you charge for the average logo? Not telling you. Sorry, Adam. Serious business thing. I keep exact money figures kind of to myself. It's kind of a private. I don't advertise them because the services I provide are tailored to each client, basically. So I don't advertise my prices. But if you have other things talking about money and business that aren't exact specifics, I'd be more than happy to answer your question. Hey, Pavok, how you doing, man? What more do you design except logo marks? Shall we see any of this in future posts? Yes, I do. I try and I do basically anything to do with branding. So that can be mugs, letterheads, business cards, you name it, I can do it, basically. Packaging, all of these different types of things. Corporate identities, everything from a big old plane down to like a tiny little QR code that's custom for you guys, with a little specific design in it. So yes, my intention is to show more of this kind of thing, but that kind of content, because usually that involves a lot more attention to get people interacting with it on Instagram, because Instagram's quite a quick platform. People scroll through quite quickly and they look at different things very fast. So trying to put in lots of content, like a small case study, for instance, is a bit much. So I will be doing that kind of content on Behance, and when I've wrapped up the projects that I've got this week, I will be starting on my website again, which will then have more case studies on it. So, one moment. Disable that for an hour. Guys on YouTube, feel free to drop your questions in. I'm almost at the end down here. Hi Duna, I hope that's how you pronounce your name. How many portfolio pieces would you present to a potential employer at a design house? It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. I think you should show a range of skills tailored to the job specifics. If you're going for a motion designer or a web designer, it's probably not the best idea to include 50 logos in your portfolio. I would tailor it to the job specifically and show your best work, only your best work. And if that's 5 pieces, and your 5 pieces are better than another potential candidate's 20 pieces, then they'll hire you. It's about showing your process, showing the best work that you can, and showing that you are basically going in, holding your head up, going, I'm the best designer here. This is my best work that I'm going to show you. This has been tailor-made for you. So that's what I would do. I don't think it matters how many pieces. I think it's important what you put in it. Hi, Rob Lang. Hello to everyone joining and watching. It's an Ask Me Anything stream. Feel free to leave your questions below and I will answer them. Everyone on YouTube, thank you for watching. Please it's easier for me to get your questions on Twitter using hashtag Fowler Hour, but if you have a question, feel free to drop it in. Callum, David, if you've got any questions, Thomas, got anything else, chuck it in now. I will be happy to answer it. I'm going to take a big drink. I bet that sounded lovely to you guys. Right. Also, look how I'm drinking from a bottle this week rather than from a glass, because last week I knocked my glass over and I got water all over my computer, so that almost exploded. That was fun. So, go away. So, how can you teach yourself designing? What are the best sources? The best sources are Adobe. Literally, the Adobe site and platform has lots and lots and lots of tutorials and different resources on that site. You can just go through, there's a whole section in the application which can show you how to use each individual tool. The next step then I would take is going to YouTube, learning how to do the basics, how to do and then also teaching, that's how to use the software, that's the tools, but you also need to know the fundamentals of design, and there are plenty of books out there. I can't name any off the top of my head because I can't see them. But basically, read lots of books, watch lots of YouTube videos, and there are also, you can use courses from sites such as Skillshare, Udemy, and Lynda, I believe is the website. They have lots of great courses on there as well. They're all paid for. You can get free trials, but they're all paid for. I taught myself basically through practice and also just learning how software works. So I'd be like, hey, I want to make this thing. And then I'd work out which tool did what, and then I kind of went and did the tool stuff at the same time and learned the fundamentals at the same time. So I did a bit of a mixture. I hope that answers your question, B1B. How do you enhance your creative skills? What, according to you, can boost up thought process and give you new ideas? What I do to increase my thought process, so trying to learn new ways of doing things, is analysing different designs. If I'm doing logos, I will take a logo design and I will deconstruct it, whether that's in my head or on paper, and work out what the shapes they used, why it looks like this, why they've chosen to do this angle, why this flying bird has motion in the design because of the way that they've pulled the wings back further than they should. And yeah, and that kind of thing. So, and then inspiration to get new ideas, I spend a little bit of time probably every day going through Twitter and Dribbble and Behance and looking at what other people were putting out content-wise and going, oh, I really like this. Oh, I really like this. And building up kind of an inspiration board from there. That's what I do. That's what I do. Let's just go back, make sure I haven't missed any questions. Why didn't I go to university? I didn't feel that I needed to, and at the time there weren't any courses that I wanted to do, because in the UK right now, the university fees are extortionate. Most courses are between, I think it's 6,000 and 9,000 on average per year. And for some places that's not even including accommodation. So it's a lot of money. So if you did that for 4 years, it's like 50 grand, which is a lot of money to then try and build your own business with all this debt hanging over your head, expected to pay back at some point, is crazy. And at the time, I didn't know that I wanted to be a graphic designer. I didn't know that I wanted to do what I do now. So I ended up going straight into work. I learned how to print t-shirts and print clothing at a print shop for 2 years, while still practicing graphic design and kind of doing it for fun. And then for 2 years I worked, or 2 years, a year and a bit, I worked for a supermarket. And again, that was last year. So last year I was working for a supermarket and then coming home after like a 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., 3 p.m. shift, and then working for another 6 hours to kind of practice my skills and build up this account. So that's why a lot of people have asked me previously, oh, like, how'd you build your account up and get it to this size? And I'm like, well, it takes time. Like, I didn't get to 12,000 people overnight. It takes a long time. Yeah, so that's that one. I hope that answers your question. Is that Whittor? Jay Whittor? Hello, I guess. I think that's your name. Millie Wilson, hello. Hello, people. It's an Ask Me Anything stream. I'm Connor Fowler, if you've not seen my account before. I'm a graphic designer. I make logos and brand identity stuff. If you're interested in asking me a question about design, or about myself, or things that I like, or asking for advice, please put it in the chat. Yeah, so while I'm waiting for that, I'm just going to take a second to talk to you guys about a little show I'll be doing with, if you were watching, I did a little live stream earlier today, and we did a little live stream earlier with David from We Are DHD. He and I are going to be doing a short kind of 30-minute show on next Friday to see whether we want to do it more regularly, but the show is going to be talking about collaboration and going to be discussing various topics on that. So I'm going to be doing another little show on the side. It's nothing, not committed to anything yet. It's just to see whether it works and whether people like it. Okay. Excellent. So let's just make sure I've not missed any tweets. People talking about me on Twitter. Hello. So, do you suggest some books for learning design for newbies? Chris, there's a really good book list, actually, that Chris Doe has put together. You can find that stuff on the Futures website, which is thefutur.com, I believe. They've got a book list on there that's got some really good books on it. If you want to get books that are related to kind of exploration and understanding logo design and symbol design and things like that, there's a whole bunch of good books by Counterprint, Abstract Logos, Animal Logos, etc. Nature ones. And then you've got this big old book called Symbol. Again, these are more like encyclopedias for design and for logos. So this is just full of black and white logo designs and things like that. And I find these are great sources of inspiration. And if you want to get started, it's a great way to kind of look through and be like, oh, I really like this kind of design. I wonder how that was made, for instance. Book-wise for learning, I taught myself through largely digital. So if the books that I used I don't own, I would have used in the library, and honestly, I don't remember their names, I'm afraid. Hi Matt, if you've got a question, I saw your tweet. I believe I've answered that question thus far, but if you have another question, feel free to send it to me now. I believe we've got one coming in from Pyrus, just make sure my bookshelf doesn't fall down. What are your thoughts on the feud between fine artists and designers? Is there a feud? Why is there a feud, Pyrus? What's your source, buddy? I'm confused. I don't... Hmm. In what way a feud? Because they do completely different jobs. You wouldn't ask a fine artist who creates incredible portraits to make a logo for your company, because if you designed a logo of a portrait of someone, it would be, you wouldn't be able to make it that big. You wouldn't be able to make it like an inch high. So I'm confused. Pyrus, please can you clarify your question? Thank you. Let's just make sure I haven't missed anything. No problem. I assume, I don't know what your name is, but that's not a problem. SVAPNR. No problem. If you have any more questions, feel free to send them through now. I think we've got about 25 minutes left, or until the live streams end. So yeah, the last 3 weeks, the first week we did just a straight Q&A again. The second week we did an episode on social media and my tips for social media. And last week we did a talk on Fiverr and 99 Designs and all those kinds of sites. All of which I think have got excellent tips and tricks in. And all of which you can find on YouTube at, if you just type in the Fowler Hour, the playlist will come up. I'll be tweeting about it on Twitter, which is at @CFowlerDesign. And also you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes now. I'm still learning how to edit sound and make podcasts, so your feedback and reviews would be appreciated. But yeah, you can subscribe to the podcast there if you've missed any questions or want to hear something back that I've said. Yes, you did send me one in my DMs earlier. If you wouldn't mind repeating it, I would be super grateful, because I can't leave the live streaming app. If you wouldn't mind repeating it, please, Devira. So, Matt asks, what type of logo design do I like the most? Minimal, geometric, lots of squares, lots of angles, a couple of curves. Very minimalist type design. It's very... It's just timeless, I think, Matt. I think that's what it is. I think it's just timeless. And it's one of those things that you can just... Like the Nike logo, for instance. Everyone knows what that is. It's a big old tick. You can stamp that anywhere in the world at any point in the last 50 and the next probably 300 years, and someone will know what it is. It's that kind of timeless design. That's what my favourite... That's the type of design I like the most. What's your favourite logo you've ever made? My favourite logo I've ever made is it was of a stag, I believe. My favourite designs I've ever made are a stag and a badger. The badger was one of the first designs that I created using any kind of gridding system. And the stag was just something I put together in an afternoon, and I've not really done anything to it since. It's just one of those designs that came together pretty quickly, but at the same time, I'm really proud of the way that it went. They're all quite far back on my feed, but you can go and check them out. Pyrus asks, are you planning on dedicating a space for your live streams? Live streams on Instagram and YouTube are always at 8 PM UK time on Wednesdays. That's the space that they're on. And also they're up on iTunes the following week. And you can also binge watch them on YouTube if you want. What do you find most interesting in logo design? How do you not get bored? I keep it fresh. You can literally look through any of the books that I've just shown you, the symbol one, the counterprint ones, and I always find something, because I have such an interest and such a passion for making logos and making designs. I spend a lot of time working out how things were made, and then being like, oh, this is really cool. The way that they layered these shapes together is really cool. I might do that in something I've done, or do something similar, or take inspiration from it. It's very much, I look at what is already out there in the world, and then draw elements from it that I really like, and create new designs from it. That's how I don't get bored, because it's my passion. Like, that's the biggest thing and the best thing about this job, is that I work freelance for myself, but it's also my favourite thing to do. So even if I didn't have any jobs in, I'd probably still be sat here 8 hours a day making something. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Make sure I'm on top of all the questions on Twitter. Okay. No worries, man. If you've got another question, feel free to put it in. Since I am Pyrus is on the ball tonight. Pyrus asks, since you're a designer, have you ever been labelled as an artist? Well, yeah, but at the same time, I have no problem with that. An artist is literally defined as someone who creates something, usually. You can go to an architect and call them an artist, because an architect often will design all the outside exterior bits, will design the way that the stair flows up through the main foyer of a hotel, for instance. They will design every single thing down, but it's also an art to create something unique. By creating something unique and different, and making something with your own hands, or your brain, or pencils, or pens, or whatever you think, you're effectively an artist as well as a designer. Artists and designers have different jobs, but they're effectively a fine artist, for instance, who, as I said earlier, paints portraiture, and a designer will have very different jobs. You wouldn't go to a portrait artist and say, can you make a logo for my security company? Because that's not where their art goes. I don't think being called an artist as a designer is a bad thing at all. In fact, it probably shows that they're aware that you're a creative individual and you're not just a person who makes logos every single day that looks exactly the same, that's made up of a circle and some text. Yeah, it actually shows that they understand that you're a creative individual. So 2468. On what other platforms are you on? Well, you follow me on Twitter and Instagram already, bud. Do you want more? You can find me on you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Behance, and Dribble. All of them are at Fowler Design. I kind of nailed that username down. You can just type that into all of them. I think that's 6. All 6 of those, and you can find me. Please follow and subscribe to all of them. I'd appreciate it. Oftentimes, my first concept seems to surface again and again in my early sketches. Do you find this is happening to you? And if you do, how do you ensure you're exploring other options? If the same concept keeps resurfacing, maybe you should stop doing sketches for the day, or for 6 hours, or take a break from it, go and look at something different, step away from it, hands off the package, hands off the design package, like, just leave it be, have a think about it, because I find that you need to spend as much time thinking about it as you do creating it, because when you haven't got any noise going around, you're not under pressure to sit there and sketch, you'll come up with the best ideas. And that can be quite a hard process and concept to understand. Might be quite a hard concept to grasp. But when you've done it, and you've taken a step back, or I will go out on my bicycle, for instance, for an hour, or go and do some exercise, or go and plink some notes on a piano, for instance, it just gives your brain the time to relax, take it out of your head, and then you can start fresh. That might be why you keep getting the same sketches and the same ideas over and over. It might just be that's a really good idea, but if you're wanting to explore other options and provide your client with different avenues to take the design down, take a step back, take a break, get a breather, get some tea, get some water, eat a biscuit. Yeah, take some time to just sit and think about it. Just because you're not sat with your pencil to paper doesn't mean you're not working. Yeah? I hope that answers your question. If you've got a follow-up, please chuck it in the chat. Uncivil, thank you so much. Your work is pro. Aw, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Would you ever dabble on other areas of graphic design like website design? I'm not opposed to it. My site is based on Squarespace, but I do design that myself. Obviously, it uses base templates, but I always try and incorporate things that fit my style and my branding. Web design is something I'm interested in, but I prefer making logos and identities. I'd rather work with a professional who does website design and codes and also is more aware of UI and UX. I'm very aware of the principles, but it's not a service that I generally provide. I'm not opposed to doing more of it and learning more, but it's not something I do right now. Hello, Home Deco Inspiration. I love your profile. I'm sure I will love yours too. Yeah, no problem. Appreciate hearing another perspective. Not a problem. Yep, so we've got... I'm going to say we've probably got we've got 15 more minutes. And yeah, if you've got any more questions, please leave them in the chat now. I'm going to keep taking breaks while or drinks while I'm waiting for your questions. If you've got any questions about social media, little tips and tricks for that as well, I can provide that. If you'd like to understand more about me, get in with the deep questions, Home Deco. That's such a related design question. But yeah, you can find me on all, as I said to 24668. You can find me on basically all of the social media platforms at Fowler Design, which is obviously watching on Instagram right now. You can find me on YouTube at Fowler Design, or you can search for the Fowler Hour. All 4 episodes are up there, and you can watch all of them back to back. It's about 4 hours of content, surprisingly, and you can watch that all back to back and understand that from there. And also, I will be having a new website soon, and also there's a new project coming. Excellent. So, Matt, can you rephrase that question for me? At what age did you think you could make... Oh, sorry. Don't need to rephrase it. I just didn't read it. 1 second, I will read that in a moment. Just going to jump back to Instagram. Pyrus asks, how did you figure out you wanted to go into graphic design? I didn't, honestly, to start with. I started off by designing logos for my band and t-shirt designs for my band when I was 16, 17. And yeah, sorry, when I was 16, 17, I started doing design work. Sorry, Pyrus, about that. How did you figure out you wanted to go into graphic design? So what I wanted to do originally was work printing t-shirts and understanding that kind of thing. And basically that came from being in bands and being a musician. And then I learned when I was in a band that we needed to make merchandise. So I learned how to create our logo and t-shirt designs through Adobe Illustrator. Now, they were pretty bad. Like, I'm looking back on it now, and it's really not great at all. But you've got to start somewhere, and I felt that that was a great way to start. And I think for the first, between 16 and 21 years old, I didn't actually know that I wanted to be a graphic designer. I didn't think it was possible without going to university, and I'm here now doing it full time, so quite clearly that it is. But it took a lot of hard work, and basically it was a chain of events that basically went from me going into working for a print shop to seeing that all the designs were made and then wanting to understand how that was made, and now I'm at the original point, which is I'm the person who makes the designs that go on the t-shirts rather than the person who prints them. And I basically have worked backwards through the process until I'm basically at the top. So I'm at the top of the pyramid that goes down from client to designer to then the people who make the products that the design goes on to, and so forth and so forth and so forth. I hope that answers your question, Pyrus. You've been on the ball tonight, mate. So, at what age did you think you could make design your job? That's a question from Matt. So, Matt, I honestly, one of those things that when did I think I could make design your job? I've been working really, really hard for the last year and a bit to make it my job. I don't think so that would be 21. At 21 I went, I don't want to work in this supermarket anymore. I need to do things that will make it so that I can do the job that I want to do in the future. And the hardest thing about that was having to do a second job and then do design work outside of the hours of that. And I don't think it matters what age you are to get into design. I mean, you just need practice, and you need to learn the skills, and you need to be educated in it. And that can take as long as it's going to take you and how much time you want to put into it. For me, it was 2021. I was like, no, I can't deal with this part-time stuff anymore. I need to make it so I can go full-time. And I quit my supermarket job the day before New Year's Eve last year in 2016. So basically, at the start of 17, I was like, I'm going to do this full-time. I'm going to make this work. And I've had to work my butt off since. Like, most of my work days are 8 to 12 hours, at least, depending on what I'm doing. And I work generally 6 days a week. So it's busy and it's hard, but it's definitely worth it. Pyrus, I'm going to answer your question in a minute. I'm just going to jump to YouTube. JR Ingram, hello, buddy. So he says, how are you getting work if you don't have work linked on your site? Dribble, Behance, Instagram, etc. So a large portion of my work, or a large portion, I wouldn't say a large portion, a portion of my work that is significant is on Instagram, is on Dribble, is on Behance, and is on Facebook and Twitter. And I use the social media platforms right now to promote my work, to show to people, to build my business that way. The only reason I took my website down just to a static page right now is because I wasn't happy with the way that it was set up, and I don't have the time at the moment to rebuild it. So I'm just wrapping up the projects that I've got right now, and then the main focus will be getting my website back up and running and getting my case studies finished that I wanted to put up there. Because basically the website wasn't efficient, it wasn't guiding potential clients to come and actually talk to me and send me an email. So basically I set up a static contact form, because more often than not people were coming through social media anyway, or through referrals, so they already knew my work and they already had the ability to contact me. So it seemed like a logical step to just close the website off for a bit, and then when I've got the time to put 100% effort into it, I can rebuild it. Hey everyone joining the chat on Instagram. I will be joining you in a moment. I'm just going to answer another question from YouTube. And if you want to watch any of the streams back, you can type the Fowler Hour into YouTube or iTunes now. You can find us on iTunes. You can subscribe to the Fowler Hour podcast on iTunes. I would suggest that you all do that. Please leave me a review. I'm new to editing the podcast and things like that, so any tips and comments would be excellent. Barrett on YouTube asks, do you have any more tips on growing your Instagram account? I just hit 1,000 followers, but I would love to know how you grew your audience. Top tips, Barrett would be Be consistent with when you post, whether that's every single day, whether that's 3 times a week, whether that's once a week. Be consistent. The more you post, the more people it reaches, the faster your account will grow, usually, as a baseline. Doesn't always work like that, but as a baseline. Post as much as you can and be consistent. Make sure your content is consistent. If you want to do leaflets, if you want to do business cards, post that content. Post content related to that content and kind of intertwine it and mix it up a bit. But make sure your content vibe and your content impression the second someone hits your profile is consistent. Make sure you're using as many hashtags as you can that are targeted to the audience that you want. So you can get between 25 and 30 hashtags. Make sure you're tagging accounts that repost as well, just in case they'd like to repost your work. That's 3. Also make sure that you show your process and show a story. So if you can, for instance, if you're a vlogger, for instance, you could post 3 Instagram posts a day being like, this is what I had for breakfast, look how amazing it is. This is what we did today, we went to the beach. This is what we're watching tonight on Netflix. Like, you could post that content and people would interact with it because it shows a process. For a designer, that might be showing sketches, digital design, and then mock-ups and things like that, kind of case study related things, and that way it will help build your account. Congratulations on hitting 1,000 followers. I don't know how long you've been running your account for, but hitting 1,000 is excellent. Just got to keep pushing and don't be deterred by what other people have and all of their accounts. It takes a long time. It's taken me almost 2 years to get where I am. How did I get clients when I was starting? I pushed my social media content uncivil. That's what I did. I had referrals and friends and family and friends of family and friends of friends who passed on my information, and that's how I got my first jobs. And then when I was taking this full time, I basically pushed my media content hard. I put lots of content out there, show the world what I can do, and be consistent with it and push it really hard. And then people come to me to be like, oh, I love what you're doing, let's work together. And it takes a long time to build that kind of business, but it's worth it in the end. It's worth putting the effort in to start with. Are you comfortable with sharing where you went to school? I went to Barton Peveril Sixth Form College in Eastleigh. I didn't go to university. James Granger asks, how do you set your price points? I use like a value-based system. So basically, rather than charging hourly, okay, that's not true. I have my hourly rate, and then I assess the work involved and the risk involved with the job and the time and all of this effort that's going to take to create it, add those together, and then come up with the price points. Right. I am more than happy to keep the show going for a bit longer now. We've got some more questions coming in. Instagram, the stream is going to end in 20 seconds. But if you just go back, I'm going to restart it, and then you can join in then. Okay, I hope that's all great with you guys. Feel free to just join back in about 10 seconds time. Alright, I will catch all your questions in a second. Excellent. And we're back. I don't know whether it's going to delete the previous one on Instagram. So, the previous live stream. So if you've missed the first half of the show, you can go to YouTube and type in the Fowler Hour and you'll be able to watch the full VOD of the show. Or you can head to iTunes and type in the Fowler Hour, and we can ask questions and answer things and listen to basically the VOD of this. Let's get back into it. Hi again, Jasmine. JR on a couple of people asked questions at the end there. If I missed it and haven't answered your question yet, please put it back in the chat. The chat is deleted and wiped, so I need to see your questions again. Okay, so JR asks, what are you hired for mostly? A logo, a branding system? How do you go about pricing? I've just answered the pricing question, so I hope that information answered that bit of the question. But again, I don't give out specifics for that, but it's the system that I said basically reflects the process that I go through to price it. Do you have, what are you hired for mostly? A logo or branding systems, etc.? I often, mostly logos. I always offer services such as business cards, letterheads, and a usage. So something different, such as a piece of clothing or a bit of packaging or things like that. So it's more often than not, it is logos. But that also reaches out to brand identity, because often the people approaching and the clients who approach me are startups, or their business is looking to rebrand and things like that. So they'll start with, we'd like a new logo, but then you talk to them and basically they'd like to actually rebrand everything, and I can provide that service all in one go, rather than going to different people for different things, rather than coming to me for a logo and then going to a signage company who don't really understand their needs or requirements, and they just churn out signs, for instance. Polio71 asks, who are my design heroes? My design heroes for business and actual design, I think Aaron Draplin is probably, for his ethos and his lifestyle, is one of my design heroes. His work is excellent. Not all of it's my taste, but I think the way his ethos and his lifestyle and his story is excellent. Chris Doe is an incredible typography designer, and basically he is like a god of business in design and understands the ins and outs of every nook and cranny, and he's a great inspiration to actually look to, and the future, all of the future's content is great to look to understand how you can improve yourself as a designer and the business surrounding it. And also my other favorite designer, yeah, I think that's the list. Yeah, that's the list. We'll leave it at 2 for my favorite designers. They're more of my design heroes than my favorite designers, because what I love about design is that so many people do so many different things that I like to draw inspiration from so many different places that it becomes hard to work out exactly how many people have made different logos that I love. And I think that's really cool. Saul SBT, I largely use Adobe Illustrator, but I also use Photoshop and basically the creative package, so InDesign, etc. Alex, I believe. Should we work on 99 Designs or Upwork? Now, I'll briefly put in a little thing saying the last episode of the Fowler Hour has a full hour on all of these kind of sites. So if you want to go back and watch that, that will have a lot of different comments in that I think are really helpful. If you want the condensed, edited version without all the kind of the waffle, me talking to chat and things like that, you can subscribe on iTunes and listen to it there. 99 Designs and Upwork, they are interesting sites. I personally would never use them. I've considered them before in the past, but having investigated them and looked at the fact that they use contests and other ways to, they basically really benefit the client by saying, hey, you put your post out here and we'll get 30 to 50 or 100 designers all submitting their logos for you to pick one. You're effectively working for free, and it's spec work, and it's not, you basically have to rely on getting lucky to get business rather than being the best at what you do, or people coming to you for your expertise. They're merely picking you off face value. They don't really know anything about you or your designs or your previous work or how you can actually interact and do and build a relationship with a client. They just want to see your work, and it devalues what you do, and also, in my opinion, if it was me, would make me feel really I have a lot of self-doubt about my own work, because if I'm seeing 50 other people and my work's not getting picked, I'll be like, oh, what's going on? Why are all these other people being picked? Like, I can see that my work, in my opinion, is the best. Why have they not picked it? And then to not get paid for any of that is even worse. So I wouldn't ever use those sites. I hope that answers your question, Alex. How can one start a career in logo design? Learn the software, so learn the tools, learn the fundamentals of design. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube and Skillshare and Lynda, and there are so many books out there on the basics of creating timeless design. I might even make an Amazon affiliate set of links that you guys could check out actually at some point. That would be a good idea. No worries, Polio. Don't search for work. Unless you want a job in a full-time, part-time agency as part of a team, etc., etc. You shouldn't be looking for jobs. You should be promoting your work, pushing your content, so that when you basically show off your best work, show that you're a competent, creative, unique, incredible designer who can build a relationship, who can understand the client's needs through the content you produce and through your website and through your portfolio, and you interact with the community and interact with other people, and then clients come to you, and then you can go to the client and go, hi there, this is me, you already know me because you've already seen my work. How can I help you? How can we solve the problem that you're having with your design, whether that's an old logo that you'd like rebranded or a startup that you're starting? And basically push your content on social media is probably the best way to do it right now, or go door to door and in your town and knock on every single door and go, every single business, and go, hi, this is what I do, this is me, here's some of my work, would you like anything? That's cold call, hard selling. That's hard, that's difficult. I don't think I'd do it in today's world. With the internet, people don't do that kind of thing anymore. Okay. Cashman, I think is your name. How should I start on ZBrush? I have no idea what ZBrush is. Let's have a look, shall we? This looks like a 4D software. It is indeed. It's a 3D creation tool software. Honestly, I have no idea. Never even heard of this software, mate. So, I have no idea. I've never used this software. On their website, it says there's free training. I can see that it's for 3D design. I have no idea. I don't work in 3D. And I also don't... I've never heard of this software, so I wouldn't even know where to start to give you advice, I'm afraid. JR asks, I would love to know more about your process with clients, interactions, how many iterations, etc. So, a standard, and this is quite a standard across the industry, is sketches leading to 3 concepts and then 2 revisions. That's kind of my standard. Obviously, it's tailored to the client and their needs. Struggling to talk. But that's kind of the basic package. How many iterations is usually 2. As when you've done 3 concepts, you present them with 3 options. You then pick one down the middle, and then you can combine elements from both, and then you're basically tweaking. So rather than having loads of concepts and revisions, I keep it quite strict within the scope of the project, within the contract, so I'm not having to do loads and loads of concepts, because in the preliminary questionnaire and also in the sketching phase, I have narrowed the process down, so basically it makes it easier in the digital bit, which seems a little odd, but the harder and the more detailed information you get at the start, the better the sketches will be, and then you end up getting with less and less and less work as you reach the end, rather than having to do a big overhaul at the end. My advice is go and look up tutorials for ZBrush. Again, unfortunately, I don't know anything about the software. I don't work in 3D design and kind of model design like that. 21 Arigato asks, are you self-taught or some education? I did a GCSE in art once, 6 years ago, but other than that, I'm self-taught. I mean, self-taught's an odd thing. I didn't just teach myself and read books. I did use tutorials and other Skillshare courses and things like that. I did spend the time to seek out education online and through books, but I don't have a qualification in it, so to speak. Selling on Creative Market, I think, is a good idea, but I wouldn't, unless you do it full time and are constantly pushing your content to try and get it to the top, you might struggle. I know on Creative Market, most of the digital products that they sell are fonts and kind of more DIY, creative, create and craft type things. It's that kind of aesthetic. I mean, if that's what you do, then great. But I think the people on that site have already cornered it, and there's so many people trying to sell things on Creative Market that you could get lost. Not saying you shouldn't try, but I would personally focus on pushing yourself rather than trying to sell things. Delano, thank you very much for your comment. How long does it typically take to create a logo? From Ronin Waray. I hope that's your name. I hope I didn't butcher that completely. Thank you for your comment about my work. I appreciate that a lot. How long does it take to typically create a logo design? It depends. I mean, obviously it depends on the scope of the project. So if they've got 6 concept designs, it's going to take a lot longer. Some logos I come up with the idea in 6 hours. Some of them take 60. Some of them take more. Yeah, it doesn't fit with. This is why I don't. Yes, it's basically there's no set system for it. There's a set system for the process that I use because I feel it's the most effective, but the time I spend on each section of that is completely dependent on the scope of the project, how much value is behind the project, and what the client's needs are, and that's the biggest one. What the client's needs are the biggest one. 21 Arigato, send me a message and I will be happy to leave my comments about your work. Right, my throat is starting to get really sore from talking for an hour straight. So if you have any final questions, I'm going to do another couple of minutes and then I'm going to bounce. So thank you to everyone who has tuned in on YouTube and Instagram again, and Twitter. The edited, de-waffled version of the show will be out next week on iTunes. You can go and subscribe to it now. So if you just type in the Fowler Hour on iTunes or your podcast player on Apple devices, you can find me there. You can go to YouTube and search Connor Fowler or the Fowler Hour, and you will find all 4 of the episodes so far. And you can go and binge watch those as much as you like. Also, if you have Twitter, you can follow me at @CFowlerDesign and use the hashtag FowlerHour, like a bunch of people have tonight, to ask me questions. And it's the easiest, fastest way for me to read them, because Twitter's great. Twitter's awesome, really. That's why I use it. So, yeah, I'm going to close out now. If you have any more questions, guys, you can feel free to DM me, or I will answer them on next week's show. Hopefully next week I will have a guest, but we'll see what happens and we'll see where it goes. If you have any suggestions about who you'd like to see as a guest, please don't suggest ridiculous designers, because I want to talk to smaller designers first, and go from there. But yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. I will speak to you guys in a bit. So I'm just going to close out the show for YouTube, and then we'll go from there. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been Connor, and this is the Fowler Hour. We are live at 8 PM UK time every Wednesday on Instagram and YouTube. The condensed, de-waffled version of the show will be out on iTunes next week. You can search the Fowler Hour. I'm really excited to get on that platform. And if you have any questions for myself, you can use hashtag Fowler Hour on Twitter. See you next time.